Welcome back to the Classical Architecture Workshop. My name is Professor Brandon Rowe, and we are going to continue our tutorials with the Ionic Order, specifically how to draw the entablature itself. As we've used in the past, we're going to continue with the American Vignola, a guide to the making of classical architecture by William Ware. The Ionic Order is the third of 5 classical orders. It's that one right there in the middle, highlighted. And a couple things to be aware as we move forward and draw the Ionic Entablature. First off, the Ionic Order, as we've noted in the past videos, is unique in that the column capital has these spiral volutes. But as we think back with the entire proportions, when the height of the column, it is 9 diameters tall. If that is equal to 1, and the entablature then is a quarter of the overall height of the column, that makes the entablature 2 1/4 diameter in height, or 2.25. The other couple things that you should be aware of as we go forward and draw the Ionic entablature is that the architrave is broken down into 2 main parts. You have what is called a lower fascia and an upper fascia, and then separating that from the frieze itself, the center part, is a cyma reversa and a fillet. And usually in the frieze, either you'll find one of 2 things. The frieze is plain, or it will be ornamented with sculptural elements. Sometimes it is also pulvenated. That means it's bulging out. It's somewhat circular in nature. And then above that, we have the cornice. And the cornice, just like some of the other orders that we have drawn thus far, one thing that sets it apart is that it has all of these teeth-looking rectangles that hang down from the ovolo, and we call those dentals. So let's go ahead and get started with this drawing. Here is a sneak peek at the drawing that we are going to be producing. We will not draw necessarily that column capital component to it, but just that top being the entablature itself. Let's get started. For this drawing tutorial, just as the others, you're going to need a couple of instruments: an architectural scale, rolling ruler, a builder square, or a very large triangle, a triangle with a 45-degree on it, and a compass, and some kind of writing utensil. So, as we get started here, the drawing that we are going to create, we're going to create a scale drawing of the Ionic Entablature. Just as we did in the last video, the overall size for the diameter of the column we made at 1 foot, 12 inches, if it was built in real life. And so scaling that down, this drawing that we're going to create is a 3-inch equals 1 foot drawing. And so that means D, our diameter, is going to equate to 3 inches. So as we get started here, I'm going to use my large builder square to get my overall proportions, my overall dimensions correct. The overall height of the entablature is going to be 2.25 or 2 1/4 D. So if D is 3 inches, we've got 6 inches, that's 2D, and then a quarter would be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that now. See here. And the other dimension that we're going to need is we're going to go 7.5 inches across. That is going to give us for the upper part of the cornice there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this marked off. So I'm going to push this up a little ways so I can leave some room for my label. Okay. Just going to mark this 7.5. Do this on this other side as well. And then this side, we need to make sure we are at 6 3/4 of an inch. Okay. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and create a couple graphic scales. So I'm going to use my rolling ruler here. I'm going to create two side by side. So I've got one there. I'm going to go over 1/4 of an inch, pull it down another 1/8 of an inch. And there we go. Okay, so with this, there's a couple of things that we're going to start breaking down. So we're just going to double check this. If I use my 3-inch scale here, and if I put it at the 2 and bring that down, I should have 2 1/4 of the 3. So we are good. Okay, so now you may recall when we were doing the block order for the Ionic, there was a couple of things when we specifically split up the entire entablature. We divided it into a total of 18 parts. And so to get this, we are going to essentially divide D, our diameter 3 inches, into 8 equal parts. And so to do that, we're going to use our 3/4 of an inch scale. Here we go. And if I'm looking at my 3/4 of an inch scale, and I guess you could do this for 3/8 of an inch as well, actually works out better. So 0 to all the way to 18, so it automatically has those 18 divisions for us. So we're going to go ahead and mark a tick mark at each of these. And as we get up to the number 5, the 5th one, we're going to carry that line down because that 5/8 D is going to be our architrave. So let's keep going up. I'm going to go up 6 now. Go up 3, 4, 5, and 6. Bring that line down. That is going to serve as our freeze. And then now the remainder should be 7. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so if we pull this off just a little bit onto the left-hand side, each of those, we can then use our rolling ruler And we're going to create a dimension stringer through all of those. And so we've got our first up, our architrave. And that is 5/8 D. So we've essentially got 5 of those divisions there. Next we have our freeze. And that is going to be 6/8 D. And then above that we have our cornice. And the cornice is 7/8 D. Okay. Now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and pull those lines across for those 3 main components. So we can start to see this entablature come to life. All right, so just like that. Perfect. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in our center line. And we are going to place this just to double check something here. Our 7.5. So we're going to go over from that first graphic scale roughly about 3.5 inches. You could put a tick mark there, and we'll do the same thing on the top. 3.5 inches. And line up our ruler with those marks that we just created. And we're going to do a dash dot line type. To indicate our center line. And as you may recall from the previous video, as when we were drawing the column is centered on that center line. Okay, so with that, we're going to need to get the edge of our column. And so to do that, the edge of the entablature, which is also the edge of the top of the column shaft on this side, because that column shaft always lines up with the entablature up above it. There's a structural logic that all of that weight is coming down and bearing on the column itself. So, if you recall from the previous one, our column width is not just 1 diameter. It actually gets a little bit more narrow towards the top. And so we are going to create a small graphic scale underneath the bottom of our beam. And we are going to use our 1/2 inch scale. First off, before I do that, I'm going to center that 1/2 inch component, the one with all the teeth. And I'm going to put a line on the 0 and on the 12. So I'm essentially centering a 1/2 inch on that graphic scale. And since we are doing 5/6D down here, we're going to center that one that we just created between the 2 and the 3. And we're going to create 2 on both sides. So we have got 5, our 5/6D there. Okay, so from there we're going to take this line up. Actually, I'm going to go the reverse. Use my top line to get things centered. Make sure we are good. Okay. So as we are bringing this line up, I'm going to just do a solid line for this portion of it, and then I'm then going to carry it up dashed until we get to the top of the architrave. And then the area for the freeze, I'm going to do a solid. And then from there on up, I'm going to do a dashed line again. So you may recall this is kind of that exercise that we did earlier on when we were drawing the simplified block order. Now I'm going to take my 45-degree triangle here, and I'm going to line it up with the top of my frieze and the bottom of my cornice. Because what this 45 is going to give us is the outermost projection of the cornice. So there we go. And that projection, since this is a 45 degree, it is 7/8 diameter. So just for our reference, as we did with the block order, let's go ahead and just continue that line up. And we're going to create a dimension stringer. On both of those. And that is 7/8 D. Just the same as the cornice overall height. Okay, so now we've got kind of the edge of our entablature in place. Once again, this would rest on the column as it comes up here. Obviously, the volutes extend beyond this, but that is okay. All right, so now that we've got these marks in place, there are a couple of lines we could go ahead and pull across. The first of which, as we're coming up from the bottom here, so for our architrave, if we go up 2 of the 5, we can now carry a line across. Then if we go up another 2, carry that line across. So what we're starting to create here is these divisions. So we've got essentially a lower fascia band, an upper fascia band, and then this last portion will be our cyma reversa with a fillet. In this area for the freeze, we're not going to put anything right now. As we go up to the next element, the cornice, we are going to add a couple of lines. We're going to go up first, just that first one of 7 divisions, or 7/8, and we're going to carry this line across. This line is going to essentially serve as the bottom of our dentals. So we're going to do this somewhat lightly, going across. We're going to take just a little bit ways past the 45-degree diagonal line that we just created. We're then going to go up another one, and carry this one across. See here. And this one is also going to be fairly light because this is we're going to erase some of these elements here. And then from there, we are just going to go up another one. This one, we're just taking the line across to the graphic scale. And same with the one right above it. Okay, and then the last two, let me flip this around. So this one, if we go up another one, then this line, where it will be 2 from the top, we're going to take this line all the way across. And this is going to be part of another cyma reversa. And then last but not least, this last one, we're going to take this across to the graphic scale itself. All right. Now that we've done that, we've taken a couple of these molding lines across. We're going to subdivide some of these other elements here. And actually, there's one more I almost forgot about. If we go up one from the very bottom, we'll just take that over to the first graphic scale. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to use our 3/4 of an inch scale. And as we're going up from the bottom, we go to that second one, we are going to add 2 divisions. We're going to cut this one in half. And then this one right here, we're going to add a number 3 because we're going to split that into 3 divisions. We're going to bypass the freeze, and then as we get into the cornice, this first one, we're going to subdivide that into 5 parts, skip one, subdivide the next one into 5 parts, and then the one above that into 2 parts. We're going to skip that one, and then we are going to subdivide this one into 2 parts, and then the top one into 3 parts. All right, so to do this, using our 3/4 of an inch scale here, so if I'm using the one with all of the tick marks, I can go ahead and find easily, there's a center point, so subdivide that one into 2. And I can go ahead and erase this one down here because I won't need that one. And I can also erase this one here in the middle in between them. Okay, so then using that 3/4 of an inch, it automatically subdivides it into 6. So every 2, I would put a tick mark to get that into 3 parts. I'm going to skip over the 5s let's go to the 2. And we've already done this one. Just put one right in the middle there. Same with the other one, just above it. We'll subdivide that into 2. And then go up to the last one on the top, subdivide that into 3. So this is in 6 major divisions, so every 2 major lines we will go ahead and create a division, so we get that into 3 parts there. Okay, so with that, there's a couple of other elements that we do need to subdivide once again. So we're going to go ahead and create another graphic scale using our rolling ruler. Let's pull this down. So this next one is we're going to subdivide one of these 2 divisions into 3 parts. So pull that down below that, and it's just going to be that top of that is the one we're going to subdivide. And then as we go up in the cornice, we've got 3 and then 2. And then this bottom of the 2 is where we're going to create a new graphic scale, and we're going to subdivide that into 3 parts. So let's go ahead and create the bottom of these little graphic scales here. Bring down the 2 on either side, and we are going to use our 3/4 of an inch scale again to then subdivide that. It should be a tick at each of the main lines there. So that bottom one, we're subdividing that into 3. And then this top one, we're going to subdivide this into 3 as well. So let's put our 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So there we have it. And you're saying, well, you forgot this 5. Well, we did. So if you've got a normal ruler, one that has centimeters on it, okay, because this one does not like to be subdivided into a nice way. So if you're using a centimeter ruler, this 5 is about a centimeter, and so there's 10 marks on a centimeter. And so if we put a mark every 2, this will enable us to have 5 divisions there. And we'll move this up to the other one that needs 5 divisions. Every 2 marks, we are adding a line there. Okay, so we've got that. We've got all of our major divisions in place. So now let's go ahead and strike a bunch of lines. All right, so starting at the top, let's work our way down. So with the cornice, where we subdivided it into 3 parts, that first third, we're going to carry that one across. And that is going to be a fillet at the top of our cyma recta. And then as we move down now, where we subdivided it into 2, we're going to take that 2 all the way across, and then we're going to go down one of these thirds and take that across. So first, let's do that one with the 2 there. Sure we are lined up on the side. Okay. And we're going to go down one of those thirds. Carry that across. Okay, and we've already got that one. Now if we go down to that division where we had two, we're going to place a line right there in the middle of it. Take that across. And this is going to be our corona. And no, it is not coronavirus, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so from there, we are, for our division of 5, we're going to go down 2 from the top. Take a line across. That is going to be the bottom of our ovalo. Then we're going to go down just another one of those 5th divisions. Take a line across there. And that's going to be a fillet that's going to separate our dentals from the ovalo. And then as we go down from there, on this next 5 divisions, we're going to go down one of those and then take a line across. Okay. And then we've got that one next. Now as we go down to these 3 divisions here on the bottom, we're going to go down just 1/3. Carry that across. And then we're going to go down to our other lower one. So with our 3 divisions here, we're going to go down 2 of those thirds, or 1/3 from the bottom. And then last but not least, we'll go down another 1/3. And take that one across. So it should look something like that now. Okay, perfect. So there's a couple of things we are going to do as we move up the page. So the first is we're going to do a thicker or darker line type going straight up until we hit this first line here. And once we hit this, we're going to use our 45-degree angle, bring this across, and draw on a very light 45-degree angle there. So where that 45 crosses that next line up, we're going to bring a line down. So we're essentially creating that little fillet there. And then from there, we are going to create an ovalo, just like we've done in the past. So a quarter round circle. And that quarter round is actually going to come up and hit where that 45 is. Okay, so now the next step is we're going to take a 45 from this point and take that up and over. So we can get the Cyma reversa the top. Okay, where that 45 hits the very top, we're going to go straight down. And from there, we are going to take, from the ovalo, we're going to go over just a slight distance there, where that 45 would continue projecting up. And we're going to take a vertical line up. And then once we hit this top, what we're going to draw the Cyma reversa. So if I brought in my 45, and we took that down from that corner, what we're going to see with this Cyma reversa. So remember, this Cyma reversa is as if there are two vertical circles stacked on top of each other. So it's going to bulge out towards the top, because all this weight's coming down and it's causing it to bulge out. Okay, we'll take this line back, thicken that up, go up through the freeze, so why don't we go ahead and lower the label these. So this is the lower fascia, and this is the upper fascia. And then right here we have our Cyma reversa. Okay, so before we jump past the freeze, we're going to create what's called a pulvenated freeze. To do this, we're going to place our compass at the top, just our compass, so that it is that full distance for the freeze. Okay. And we are going to create a light half circle there, a quarter circle. We're going to move our compass, place the point on the bottom now. Make sure it's lined up there on the top again. Bring that light down. And where those two intersect, I'm going to now place my compass there at the center point. And I'm going to create a dashed little radius there. And what that is our pulvenated freeze. So if sometimes the freeze will bulge out like that. So I'm going to make this just a little bit darker so you can see that. Okay, so we call this a pulvenated freeze. This element right here. Okay. And if you want, you can kind of add that point in there so you can be reminded of how we got that. This next area that we're going to draw is called the bed mold. But it's essentially another cyma reversa. So if we went ahead and took a 45-degree angle, which we've got here, as it comes here to the top, this is where the starting point of that cyma reversa molding takes place. So it will bulge out first, come back, it's going to hit that diagonal line, and then be rounded down to the bottom. There will be a little gap there. And then from there, as this diagonal continues up, where it intersects that line right above it, we're going to take that line down. That is going to be a small little fillet that's going to separate this for us. All right, so now that we've got that done, we need to go ahead and start putting in a couple of these other elements here. First off on our list is we're going to start drawing these dentals. So to create the dentals, the spacing from one side of one dental to the very next dental, that is 1/6D. Or for the scale that we're drawing, it's essentially a 1/2 inch. But a dental is always centered on this center line as it goes down. And so in order for us to do this, we are going to use our 45-degree triangle here. And we are going to pull a line down from the top so we're going to pull a 45-degree line down. So if we're looking over here on the side, we've got our 2 5 divisions. It's that second one. So we're pulling that 45-degree down from 2 up from that 5 divisions down until we get to that other division for the top of the 5. And then we're going to flip our triangle around move this over. Bring this back up, this 45-degree. And then we are going to take it back down again. Make sure I'm doing this correct. Yes, okay. All right. Line it up. So essentially creating a zigzag type pattern. Bring that down. And then one more time, we're going to take it up. Let's see here. For some reason, I think might need to backtrack here. No, I think that's right. Okay, so I think we're good. So if I was to dash a line up here, this part, I think what's happening is my lines are not perpendicular. That's what's going on. Let's check this with my rolling ruler. That one's good. That one is not. That's what's going on. Okay, let's fix this. Sometimes this happens because we're not necessarily using a drafting board. Small inaccuracies can really throw off your drawing and your proportions. So let's get a fresh start here. So I'm going to actually erase these lines that these diagonals that we just created. It's better to do these course corrections now because otherwise things will not look correctly. Alright, so let's take this line back across here. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's try this again. Sorry for that. Okay, so once again, a 45-degree coming down from this top. Flip our triangle over. We're going to do another 45 going up, going back down. Then another 45 going up. Because what we should have is this 45 that goes up should be parallel to this other one, but before it shouldn't be out of balance there. So that's what was throwing us off. Okay, dash a line up and down for each of these. And a good way to check it is that from the center line over to this one, we should have half D. And so half D is 1.5 inches. So if I measure that, we're still a little bit off. Okay, so I'm going to take that up at 1.5 inch from the center line, and we're going to create a dimension stringer there because that dimension should be 1/2 D, or for the scale we're drawing 1.5 inches. Okay. So with that, now I can go ahead and from that line over still a little wonky. All right. Let's bring that up now. From that location. That should be better. Okay. All right. There we go. All right, so now let's flip this around. Let's go backwards. Apologize, sometimes this happens. You want to make sure you get it right, because it will throw off the whole drawing. Okay. Continuing our diagonals. And then the final one should line up with our top. This is kind of like that last drawing that we did for the volutes. Right, a little inaccuracy can go a long way, so better to get it right off from the start. Okay, so now as we know that we said that this dental spacing was a 1/2 inch, and so as we go ahead and start this, what we're going to find out is that right where this triangle comes up, if we take a vertical line down from there, this is going to be our outermost dental, and we're going to have another one right next to it. So the nice thing is that with these diagonals, as it crosses this other line, what that reveals to us is actually the edge of the dental. So if I take a line down from there, and I come on over to this other side, take a line down, same with this one, anywhere that diagonal is crossing that other line. And there we go, we've got one of our dentals figured out. So now from there, if we use our 1/2 inch scale and we take a 1/2 inch over and we put a mark there, move it over to the next one, put a mark there, that gives us our next dental spacing. So we can take this one the opposite direction, so in between these dentals we have a square block. Get over to the next one. And we can essentially follow that same pattern all the way down for the rest of the drawing. So we keep moving it down 1/2 inch. To the next line over. So a pattern starts emerging. There's a square and then a rectangle. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to use our rolling ruler, essentially marked where those need to go. Now I'm going to bring those lines down to that next line. You're going to keep doing this, going all the way down for that full entablature. Okay, so that should be good for us. So anywhere where you have this square, I want you to just darken that up on this top band here. And then the other rectangle, you're going to erase the other line. So that is going to be the dental that is coming down. And then here at the end, we've got two kind of stacked together because it's now going the opposite direction. Okay, and where those squares are, you're going to erase that bottom line. Oops, excuse me. So these are going to be solid at the bottom of the dentals. All right. Perfect. And so we can go ahead and label this. So our thickness for one of these dentals is 1/9 D, and the distance between one dental to the next like we're saying is 1/6 D, half an inch. It's that same distance that we did down here. Okay, so if we were to take this little 45 line here, continue it up to the next, right where it intersects there, we're going to bring that down, and that is going to be that part of the molding. And now if we were to take this, dash this up, and use that as a center point, we would have our ovalo, right, roughly a quarter round, molding there. It's going to go straight over from there, and this next area, we call this the corona. This was the ovalo, and these are the dentals. And above the corona, we have what's called the cymatium. And this is a cyma reversa molding that we have here. So this top fillet is just going to go down from the top where that 45 hits it. And in order to figure out where this cyma recta is going to land, we're going to use our rolling ruler, pull this down, strike a little 45-degree for the cymatium portion. And right where that touches there on the bottom, we're going to have a fillet that's going to go down straight. And then from there up, we're going to bulge out from the bottom, and it's going to flare up to the top. Just like that. Then we've got our fillet. And then from there, from that fillet, if we take another 45-degree, carry that down to the next molding. This bottom area is going to give us where our cyma reversa is going to be. And then going in from the cyma reversa straight just a little bit, we're going to then go vertically down. And that corona essentially acts as a drip edge. As water comes down, it's going to hit this. Sometimes you'll actually have a drip edge there so that the water drips away from the rest of the building. Okay. So I look over this drawing. Let me just double check here. I think we've got everything. Our drawing. Okay. Well, congratulations. I think everyone did a great job on this. The only thing I would do next is go over this with a pen to help things pop out a little bit more, similar to this drawing here. But there is our Ionic Entablature. Thanks everyone for joining.